The Labour Party in the UK has defeated the Scottish National Party in a by-election. Labour candidate Michael Shanks won more than 17,800 votes to win the seat at Westminster. The Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election took place after the former SNP Margaret Ferrier was ousted by her constituents for breaking COVID rules. Labour leader Keir Starmer said the people had sent a clear message, as the vote swing was more than 20% from the SNP to the Labour Party. The winning Labour candidate said his campaign offered a new start to the people as compared to the SNP and Conservative government. The by-election was also the first major electoral test for the SNP since Humza Yousaf took over as the party leader and Scotland's First Minister. The Scottish First Minister described the defeat as a disappointing night for the party. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party's conference did not help the Tories bounce back in polls, as they failed to garner less than 4% of the vote in this Scottish by-election. However, the conference turned out to be a little bit successful for the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. According to a YouGov poll, Sunak's own personal ratings have improved marginally, as 25% of voters say Sunak will make the best Prime Minister. However, even with this number, Sunak trails Starmer in the approval rating, as 34% of voters of the same poll back the Labour leader as the UK's next Prime Minister. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Mike Buckley. We're joined by Mike Buckley, senior journalist, political commentator, director, Independent Commission on UK-EU Relations, joining us live from Sheffield. Mike, many thanks for your time. Scotland's always been a key political ground, particularly for the Labour Party. What does the results of this by-election tell us, particularly when we're looking ahead to a potential general election?
Well, it's a very interesting result, and I think people were expecting that Labour would take this seat, but I don't think many people were thinking Labour would take it with quite this swing and quite the size of the majority that they have. And it's a huge turnaround for the Labour Party, and based on a result of if this result was spread across the whole of Scotland, Labour would win about 40 seats out of about 50 in Scotland in the next election. That would be a game changer for the national picture and make it much, much easier for Labour to win an overall majority, which it needs to form a government after the next election. So this result is very encouraging for the Labour Party. I'm sure very depressing to see from the SNP's perspective, the Scottish Nationalist Party, and from the Conservative Party's perspective as well, because the fact that this makes it much easier for Labour to win become the next government, that of course it makes it much harder for the Conservative Party to hold on to power.
Well, let's talk about the Conservative Party. Of course, much of the fuss has been on them and their recent conference. This result, they didn't even get their deposit back. What's the picture looking like for them, and how do you think any potential bounce or lack of bounce from the Tory party conference is going to play into the months ahead?
Well, it doesn't seem likely to me that they will get a bounce from the Conservative Party conference. I mean, it was rather an embarrassing display for them, really. They threw out piecemeal policy announcements, some of which, of course, are probably catastrophic for large parts of the country. The cancellation of the northern part of HS2 will take away huge opportunity for economic growth from the cities in the north of England like Leeds and Liverpool and Manchester. So that's a depressing picture for those regions, but it's a depressing picture for the whole country, because if one region is doing badly, that affects us all, of course. There were one or two reasonable announcements, but the one on smoking, I think most people would agree with. There is a case to be made for reform to 16 to 18 education in this country, but the plan that Sunak set out is undeliverable. But mostly we get to the end of this Conservative conference week and we see a party that's infighting, that's divided, and Sunak and his ministers, they had nothing to say about the big issues of the day. They didn't say anything on climate change. They said nothing on the economy, nothing on tax, nothing on the cost of living crisis, nothing on Ukraine, nothing on the long list of issues and concerns that people have in this country. I mean, Rishi Sunak, our health service is in a mess in the UK, and Rishi Sunak didn't even mention the health service in his conference speech. So this is a government that looks like it's on its last legs, that is grasping at straws, but does not have a sense of competence or a sense of direction.
Mike Buckley, senior journalist, political commentator and the director of the Independent Commission on UK-EU Relations. Many thanks for your insight there.